Today is the last day of the Intelligence and National Security Summit here in National Harbor, Maryland. And one thing that I wanted to talk about is what didn't happen, and that is that the Office of the Director of National Intelligence pulled a member of the office from speaking on a panel. The panel was called Signals in the Noise, AI, OSINT, and Operational Advantage. The guy's name was Jason Barrett. He is a key player in open source intelligence. And multiple people told me that he was pulled last minute. This happened last night. He had been preparing for this for a while. He was really looking forward to speaking. And it's unclear exactly why he was pulled. Is this a Jimmy Kimmel situation? No, it's not. I hope that you guys are also able to uh, follow me right now because I'm not able to use Wi-Fi at the moment. But one of the things that he was supposed to talk about was his real passion, which was essentially creating what's called the Intelligence Community Data Consortium. This was meant to address the massive amount of data that the intelligence community acquires from commercial sectors. So, private companies have all this data. The agencies are trying to acquire that data. It can happen slowly. Sometimes the data is replicated. And then there are also storage issues. We're talking about open source data. Well, this data consortium is supposed to answer these questions, provide a better way forward. It's a pretty ambitious program, some people told me, and there was nobody there to talk about it. Instead, in the panel was Richard Smith, amongst others. He stood out to me. He is at the CIA. He works in integrating generative AI into the CIA's workforce. And he talked about, well, many different aspects. One thing that really stood out to me was how frustrated he was that in doing open source intelligence, which means available publicly, they actually have to go into SCIFs, into sensitive compartmented information facilities. And he was clearly frustrated about that. He also described how we've ultimately traded one problem for another. Now we're not really relying on humans. We're talking about humans not having the skills necessarily to the skill sets for these machines, for the generative AI. He said that the CIA was having, quote unquote, existential conversations about this, and that it turns out that the best users of AI there to go through this data, it's actually not people with STEM degrees, but it's people with liberal arts degrees. This was sort of surprising, but he said that they have critical thinking skills to make assertions. That to me stood out, and there were people in the audience who clapped. I think others who were very unsettled by that. There were other conversations about bringing younger generations forward. Lieutenant General Jerry Carter, Deputy Commandant for the Information of the Marine Corps, he said that they are trying to embrace younger generations, saying that his generation, the older generation, are digital immigrants, whereas the younger generations are digital natives. But I think that the more important part is that many members of the government were there able to speak, as I've just described, someone from the Marine Corps, someone from the CIA, but again, someone from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence under Tulsi Gabbard was pulled back from this. So what else was said by government officials? Well, one person, Major General Brian Sideri, who is the Deputy Chief of Space Operations for Intelligence with the Space Force, he said that he had never seen the intelligence community and the military services working together so quickly, and that they do sometimes face disagreements, but that there's no friction. Uh, Not saying that that's necessarily true, but interesting to hear. Matt Tyson, Deputy Undersecretary for Analysis at the Homeland Security's Intelligence Unit, He described how they're approaching Salt Typhoon. This is a major Chinese cyber attack, which is ongoing, where they infiltrated the U.S. telecommunications industry in a major act of espionage. They gather that information, they compile it with others, and they use this to continue their operations. He described how DHS's cybersecurity arm, CISA, has also met in the last month with the FBI and also with foreign governments to look into this, to try to understand more of what happened and try to develop ways to mitigate it. Apparently, 80 countries were targeted, he said. And last, there is this guy, Ron Ocker. He's the assistant commissioner in CPB's Office of Intelligence. And he spent time describing how the Southern Border Intelligence Center works. This started, I think, in February under the Trump administration. And it's meant, of course, to look at what's happening at the southern border with Mexico. It's based in Tucson, and it brings together different centers based in San Diego, Miami, El Paso, southern Texas. The FBI is also embedded. There's also the Defense Department, the DEA, NSA, and it's essentially meant to create a trans-regional understanding of the threats at the border. And as we think about what this administration is doing to dismantle the cartels, who are now designated as foreign terrorist organizations, I just want to read to you what he had to say about this. This is a quote, and he uses the word plaza. Plazas are, according to him, what they call regions along the U.S.-Mexico border. They can be like designated by rivers or land. So he says, quote, "The first line of effort is to illuminate, to expose the plazas. How do we achieve the highest degree of understanding that plaza, their command and control, the way that they're doing logistics, the way that they're recruiting, what commodities they're moving, what warehouses do they go through, what trucking companies, what brokerage companies? Once we achieve that, then we execute lines of effort 2 and 3. Line of effort 2 is what we call non-judicial disruption. How do we go after a brokerage company that is either wittingly or unwittingly facilitating the flow of drugs into the United States? How do you disrupt the trucking companies? We can sanction them. We can do audits. How do we look at those warehouses and things of that nature? How do we revoke visas on family members of cartel members that are moving fentanyl into the United States? And then that third line of effort are the judicial consequences. How do we enable either the government of Mexico or our own law enforcement agencies within the United States to either arrest? Oh, looks like I cut that off, and now I don't know where I am in this sentence. Let's see if I can find it. Turns out the word arrest is used a lot. All right. Well, anyway, you get the picture. This is giving us some insights into how this works and another aspect of what the intelligence community is doing, how they operate. I also found it really interesting how many officials were speaking about Ukraine and their ingenuity, their ability to produce drones at cheap cost very effectively, and how they will essentially have the tools to help us move forward in understanding the future of warfare. That is very much something that I think about. So thank you for watching this video. If you found it valuable, informative, then please consider becoming a paid subscriber, and I will see you later.